Happy Monday, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Toys, the Universe, and Everything. This week, we're playing Midnight Mutants with Grandpa in Spooky Vision. Is this the Atari 7800's answer to Fester's Quest? Does any system need an answer to Fester's Quest? Is Midnight Mutants a worthy way to add some frightening fun to your Halloween holiday season, or will you be running away to other scary classics? Well, light a candle, turn down the lights, eat all the good candy, and save the nasty stuff for trick-or-treaters. Like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, take the nonconformist oath, and let's play the world's scariest isometric adventure shooter featuring a one-time Green Party candidate for governor of New York named Grandpa. Programmed by Radioactive Software and released by Atari in 1990, Midnight Mutants mark the end of the 7800's North American journey. Featuring Grandpa as the box art proclaimed likely due to Atari being too cheap and unwilling to license the entire Munsters property. You are Jimmy and must rescue Grandpa from Dr. Evil, who has placed him in a plastic? Pumpkin? Whatever. He still gives you advice whenever you go to the menu screen. Midnight Mutants is a pseudo-isometric shooter adventure thing. You use your inventory item and shoot with one button and access your inventory and get advice from Grandpa with the other button. You must travel the map searching for weapons, health items, story items, and defeat screen-filling bosses to rescue Grandpa or succumb to the evil of Dr. Evil and Mr. Bigglesworth. No, not that one. It's a cheesy vampire-looking guy? Well, that is disappointing. Some of the greatest video game soundtracks ever come from the horror genre games, and the 8-bit era spawned some of the best. Castlevania, Ghosts and Goblins, Midnight Mutants, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I've bragged on the 7800 before in games like Robotron, Joust, and Dig Dug that really got great things out of the 7800's built-in sound chip. Midnight Mutants isn't offensively bad, but it is very forgettable. The one note at a time singular melody is very basic, it loops way too much, with only a few different themes throughout. The entire soundtrack sounds like it was played with one hand by a kid learning to play on a toy keyboard. In the graphics department, I can see that the team behind this had big ideas at one point, and those ideas likely got scuttled to get this game out the door before Atari finally drove a stake through the 7800's heart. The boss battles that have screen-size enemies was very impressive, but the fact that they don't really animate and are simply static images of a goat skull, a human skull, and a vampire head that slide back and forth on the screen kinda killed the moment. Unfortunately, your character is also pretty bland and forgettable as well. Jimmy lacks any inspired sprite work and comes off as programmer art that gets the job done, but is devoid of any style or cool factor. Jimmy is no Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden. He is no Simon Belmont from Castlevania. He makes Louie from Scrapyard Dog seem Disney-level charismatic in comparison. The enemy sprites get the job done as well, but also suffer from meh syndrome. Forgettable birds, bats, ghosts, and mutants litter the map, but none of them are going to ever be remembered for their design the way the baddies from Ghosts and Goblins are. Gameplay is where the wheels really come off on this game. I can see how ambitious this game was for Atari. But when someone said, hey, let's make it a pseudo-isometric shooter, someone else should have quickly followed with, no. The game clearly wants to be Atari's Legend of Zelda. Zelda has an overhead perspective to keep the gameplay a clean experience for the gamer. Midnight Mutants has a vertical tilt, but a flat horizontal plane. When I play Hubert, I can hold my controller at a 45-degree angle, and the game makes sense in my mind. There is no possible way to hold a controller for Midnight Mutants that makes it make sense, because to do so, you would have to break the up and down directions off your pad and glue them back on cockeyed. If a baddie is to your left or right, shoot away. If he's directly above you, you'll have to move down and left 30 degrees-ish to line up your shot. It's like a shooter square dance. To which someone will say, that's isometric, man. To which I say, no. Hubert is isometric. Zaxxon is isometric. And the baddies exist on planes that you can easily line up with. Midnight Mutants is a side-scroller that makes you feel like you're playing a Salvador Dali painting. Look him up, kids. The game's viewpoint doesn't even line up with your walk. After walking up or down part of a screen, your arm is dragging into a wall. Most of your showdowns with the enemies will quickly evolve into you trying to exploit walls or furniture for cheap gameplay breaking safety. The faux isometric play mechanics don't work here, and while I can make myself deal with it and get through the game, this would have been better with simple up, down, left, right controls rather than up, right, right, down, left, left controls. That should never be a thing. The programmers even knew how questionable a decision they had made because boss fights revert to up, down, left, right controls. Of course, all the boss fights play like a generic space shooter. Even though the bosses are huge, they have tiny weak points, and playing these encounters feel like something out of an Action 52 cartridge for the NES. Look, it's Dr. Evil, a floating picture of a vampire's head. If this were a movie, it wouldn't have made it onto Grandpa's super scary Saturday basic cable movie lineup, but may have been featured on the so bad it's somewhat entertaining rival, USA Up All Night. Finally, the game slogs, because even with fully powered weapons, most enemies take a million hits to defeat. The final boss fight takes forever. Pumpkin-chucking mutants take forever, and they are everywhere and often populate very narrow screens. You'll be exploiting lines on the screen as 1 pixel off will keep baddies from touching you as they run by on a horizontal plane. It's as cheap as the effects from Plan 9 from outer space. The real reason you'll play this is because Grampa Munster is on the box. This game does have a kitsch factor. It keeps self-advertising itself as the ultimate Halloween nightmare in the message box at the top of the screen as you play, and makes cheesy jokes at various points and gives background to characters you'd only likely understand if you read the story from the instruction book. The Dr. Evil boss is just kooky, as the cheesy Halloween vampire head smoothly scrolls left and right and attacks you with what looks like Phoenix or Galaga aliens streaming out of his ears. His only weakness is the ear the aliens are currently streaming from. Maybe he suffers from the terror of Dermaptera. If you roll your eyes at that pun, then this game is not likely to entertain you either. It comes off rather as a low-rent spin on Zelda, or, dare I say it, a low-rent version of Fester's Quest, which was a pretty low-rent game to begin with. The one thing you won't find low-rent is the scary price tag. It is increasingly hard to come by, with copies on auction sites currently at over $100. The verdict on this game gets tricky then. Is Midnight Mutants worth playing? Well, sure. In that same way I'd watch weekend late-night creature features when I was home with no plans. Is it worth playing for $100 or more? No. You can be similarly entertained streaming the TV series The Munsters for a lot less than that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and no matter what your questions are about toys, the universe, and everything, remember the answer is always to have fun. And if you are ever attacked by a vampire, forget a wooden stake, get him in the ears with a can of Raid. Until next time, everybody.